What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I am back with a video. This time once again, we're going to focus on one NBA legend, that being Michael Jordan. And in my past videos, we look at some NBA records that are quote unquote unbreakable. And for this video, we're going to spotlight Jordan and look at 45 unbreakable Michael Jordan records. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So for this video right here, looking at 45 unbreakable Jordan records, there really is no order or rhyme or reason where I place each record. So with that in mind, let's get into the list. So first up, for one of Jordan's best ever records, in 1992, he had the most points ever in a single playoff run at 759. Also in 93, he had the highest scoring average in a title run at 35.1 points per game. In the 91 finals, he had the highest assist average ever for a non-point guard. His average in that series was 11.4. And speaking of the finals, Jordan to this day had the highest scoring average in the finals at 33.6 for a player who played at least 3 finals series. In 93, he averaged 41.0 points per game versus the Phoenix Suns, the highest average in NBA history. In the past 30 years, no players even cracked 39 points as a finals scoring average. Also looking at Jordan's finals resume, he had 3 games where he scored 45 plus points. No other player has more than 2. And we're looking at playoff scoring overall. Jordan had the most consecutive 10-point games and scored 10 plus points in every playoff game, that being 179. No other player in NBA history can say they've done that. And lastly, for our first segment, we have the fact that Jordan never scored under 15 points in a single playoff game, once again being the only player ever to accomplish that feat. So that right there was our first 9 records that I think will never be broken by any player in NBA history. As you can tell, Jordan was an all-time great scorer, and in the finals brought his A game every single time. Now looking at our next set of records, they're equally as impressive. The first one being that Jordan is the only player over 35 to win all 3 MVPs in a single season. That being the MVP overall, the All-Star MVP, as well as the Finals MVP. And in that very same season, 98, Jordan actually made more money than his entire Bulls team at $33.5 million. The second highest earning teammate on the Bulls roster had $4.5 million, and Jordan to this day is the only player ever to make more money than his whole entire team. Also in 88, he became the only player ever with MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and the scoring title in the same season. No one's done it before, and nobody's done it since. And looking at the defensive end, Jordan has the most blocks ever by a guard at 131. He also has the second most, and D Wade's in 3rd place. Also on Jordan's resume, he has the most 200 steal, 100 block seasons at 2, no other player having more than 1. And in the playoffs, he has the longest streak ever of consecutive 20-point games, that being at 60. And lastly, for our second set of records, we have the fact that Jordan has the most playoff series ever, averaging over 40 points per game. In total, 9 players did it, Jordan being 5 of those times in NBA history. And looking at the playoffs overall, 10 times he was the playoffs leading scorer. And in 86, he had the most points ever in back-to-back games, scoring 63, as well as 49 for a total of 112. So once again, for those records, Jordan was an all-time great scorer, he was phenomenal in the playoffs, and on the defensive end, he's done some things we have never seen in NBA history. Now getting to the halfway point in this video, here's some more Jordan unbreakable records. In Jordan's career, he's the highest scoring average at 30.1, with Wilt Chamberlain being barely behind him. And looking at the 03 season with the Wizards, he had 457 mid-range makes, the oldest player ever to lead the NBA in that category. I do want to note that year Jordan shot 45% from the mid-range, that was higher than T-Mac, as well as Kobe. And in addition to being a great mid-range shooter, Jordan was also phenomenal in the clutch, having the most game-winning buzzer beaters in NBA history at 9. And speaking of the highest ever, Jordan had the highest scoring average in NBA history for a Defensive Player of the Year winner at 35.0. No other player in NBA history even averaged above 30 points per game. And in Jordan's career, he had 8 seasons of 30 plus points, the most ever, with 7 of those being consecutive. And speaking of scoring, Jordan has the most championship seasons while leading the NBA in points per game at 6. No other player has more than 3, and there's never been a guard to do it besides Jordan. And looking at Jordan in his later years, in '98, in Game 6 versus the Jazz, he had 45 points. That is the most points ever in a player's last ever playoff game. And at age 40 in Washington, he became the oldest player ever to score 40 points in a basketball game, doing that versus the Nets. And also in NBA history, he's the oldest player ever to score 55 plus points in a playoff game. So Jordan in his later years, the Bulls, was the Wizards, he was still phenomenal and a very effective player. And looking at our next set of unbreakable records, Jordan once again has some pretty eye-popping numbers. As in his career, he has the highest scoring average for 16 different teams. No other player has more than 7. In NBA history, he has the most seasons ever, leading the NBA in scoring, while being first team all defense with 9 total seasons. The only other players to accomplish that were Kobe as well as Jerry West. And during the '98 playoffs, Jordan was the NBA leader in fourth quarter points scored at 35 years old. The oldest player in NBA history to lead the playoffs in fourth quarter scoring. And looking back to his days in Washington, he's still the only 40-year-old to average 20 points per game or more. No other player has done that in NBA history. And looking back to his prime, he had the most consecutive years leading the NBA in scoring at 7. And during his three-peat, he had 1,954 points, the most points ever during a three-peat run. And when looking at peak Jordan in the playoffs, he was simply unstoppable when it came to scoring the basketball. In NBA history, he has the most 55-point games at 5, no other player has more than 1. He has the most 50-point playoff games at 8, and the highest scoring playoff game ever at 63 versus the Boston Celtics. So once again, Jordan's records prove he was an all-time great scorer that nobody's come close to since or before. Now, looking at our last 9 unbreakable Jordan records, these are my personal favorite for Jordan's overall career. So the first one we have is the fact that Jordan never went to a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. No other superstar in NBA history who's been to at least 3 finals and won all of them can say they've done that in their careers. Also looking at Jordan in the finals, he has the most clutch points ever in a playoff series, that being 30 twice in '98 as well as '93. And when looking at '91, he has the most consecutive field goals made at 13. That 13th shot being the iconic layup where he switched hands and finished on the left side instead of the right. And looking at the '92 finals, Jordan had 35 points in the first half, the most ever in a finals game. Until this day, he's the only finals MVP with a perfect finals record, once again playing at least 3 finals. And in NBA history, he has the most MVPs ever, that combining finals MVPs as well as regular season MVPs at 11. And one of the craziest Jordan facts, he was only outscored by 1 player in his entire playoff career, that being Terry Cummings in his first ever playoff series. From that point on in Jordan's career, he was not once ever outscored in a playoff series, outscoring 269 playoff opponents all in a row. And looking at Jordan's most iconic game, you have to look at Game 6 of the '98 Finals. In that game, Jordan had 45 total points. The rest of the Bulls combined had 42. He is the only player in NBA history to outscore his entire team in a finals game as well as a finals clinching game. And probably the best stat of all, Jordan never lost 3 games in a row from 1990 to '98. That's over 600 games where Jordan's team didn't lose 3 in a row ever. That right there is our 45th unbreakable record, and once again it shows how dominant Jordan was during his playing career. So as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. In the future, I might do more videos like this, give you guys more facts, more unbreakable records, and just dig deeper in NBA history and give you guys some more knowledge as well as information. So as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.